Great, well, welcome to the historic Chicago Temple building. My name is Jamil Khoury, and I am the founding artistic director of Silk Road Rising. Out of curiosity, who is here for the first time? Okay, great. Oh, welcome. It is with great pride that we are presenting this evening a panel discussion entitled Muslim American Artists Reshaping the Narrative. I want to begin with a big shout out to our founding executive director, Malik Galani, for organizing tonight's event. As some of you already know, Silk Road Rising was founded in response to the attacks of September 11, 2001, and to the climate of anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, and anti-South Asian sentiment that seized our country in its aftermath. Talk of an apocalyptic clash of civilizations, pitting a monolithic West against a monolithic Islamic world, bound in an epic battle of good versus evil, entered America's political vocabulary with shocking ease. Media and pop culture representation of Muslims, rarely good to begin with, fast aligned with the execution of a war on terror that all too often claimed Islam, civil liberties, and Muslim Americans as its victims. Challenging and reshaping the narrative became imperative, but the quest has proved to be easier said than done, which is why we at this company place such a high premium on claiming the mantle of one's own representation. For if anyone is missing from media and pop culture representation of Muslims, it is Muslim American artists, the very artists who should be creating this representation. Instead, they're largely marginalized and ignored. Yes, there are exceptions, laudable exceptions. 5 such artists are with us this evening. And our hope this evening is to help further weave these artists and their work into the fabric of American storytelling and American art. So I want to take a few minutes to reflect on the idea of representation and how representation shapes our perceptions and ultimately our policies. Art is arguably the most effective medium for transmitting and receiving information. Images and stories influence our thinking and inform our behavior far more than facts, news stories, statistics, or data ever could. Stories and images have the potential to affect us emotionally, viscerally, intellectually, politically, spiritually, and so on. So let's take the representation of gay men and lesbians as an example. And please note that I am specifically referring to 20th century American representation. Gay men and lesbians were typically represented through 3 lenses: psychology, religion, and law. I like to think of it as, or I like to call it, an unholy trinity. Psychology told us that we were crazy, pathological, unstable, incapable of sustaining relationships, prone to self-destructive behavior, at risk for suicide, and if we were men, we had overbearing mothers and distant fathers. Religion told us that we were sinners, we were evil, we defied nature, threatened families, signified social decadence and moral decay. We were incompatible with righteous living. Not even God liked us. The law told us that we were criminals, social deviants, predators, susceptible to blackmail, gender non-conforming, we were indecent and obscene, and we were a grave danger to children. So psychology, religion, and law essentially branded gay men and lesbians, and American culture and public policy followed suit. Then we started coming out. We started telling our own stories, owning our own narratives, and the lenses of representation began to shift. They began to reflect our actual lives, which isn't to say there's no more work to do, because God knows there is, but the change has been dramatic. Now, building on that example, I would argue that Muslims today are also represented through three lenses, and those three lenses are national security, patriarchy, and Western democracy. Discourses on national security tell us, implicitly and explicitly, that Muslims threaten us. They are violent. They're prone to terrorism. They will kill us. They blow things up. Muslims pose an existential threat to our nation and to our way of life. Therefore, they are suspect 24/7. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Even the good Muslims are secretly bad. Patriarchy, we are told, has a friend in Islam, a very good friend. Muslims are to patriarchy what butter is to bread, says popular opinion. There may be misogyny and sexism in all religions, but Islam is patriarchy on steroids. Sure, men beat and rape women, but Muslim men beat and rape women even more. They're more cruel, more savage. Basically, Islam is bad news for women, Muslim women are oppressed, and Muslim feminists are nowhere to be found. Neoconservatives go so far as to suggest that Muslim women need to be liberated from their men, preferably by dropping bombs on them. Then there's Western democracy. Western democracy, with its emphases on individual liberties, human rights, consent of the governed, and electoral politics. Islam gets depicted as the antithesis of Western democracy, not only incompatible with Western values, but at war with those values. Experts and pundits assure us that it's not simply ideological, it's biological. Muslims possess an innate, inborn aversion to the values and practices of Western democracy. Muslims are by nature authoritarian, tyrannical, void of empathy, volatile, and only understand force. Pluralism, power sharing, tolerance for opposing viewpoints, and respect for the other are all signs of weakness in the quote-unquote Muslim mind. Now, obviously, you don't have to agree with my three-lens theory, but it is difficult to dispute that these aren't recurring themes when we consider the state of Muslim representation today. In reshaping the narrative, we need to address these lenses, challenge them, debunk them, and rewrite them. Not from a defensive posture or an apologetic one, but from a position of confidence and creativity. Only then will such myopic and racist representation be consigned to the dustbins of history. Now, fortunately, these lenses are being refocused all the time, particularly by artists and activists. But those artists and activists need support and they need allies, which is one of the reasons we are here this evening.